If you or a loved one are struggling with type 2 diabetes, you should visit the link in the description below. This clinically proven, drug-free program lowers blood sugar to a normal level and can completely reverse type 2 diabetes within just a few weeks. Here's today's video.
The question, how much rice should be consumed daily if you have diabetes? Answer by Wayne Bodelick. To start, no one can answer that for you. Only for themselves? Each of us is our own biochemical machine, and what quantities and types of carbs affect us, and how, are based on our unique circumstances. That's 8. Carbs is carbs. Rice is a carbohydrate. All carbs must be processed by your system. There are differences in how fast different types of carbs get processed, but ultimately, they still have to be processed. How many carbs a person needs is based on size, height and weight, activity level, metabolic rate, and insulin sensitivity factor. Without that data, no one can answer your query. But for an example, a 6', 240-pound linebacker in the NFL, one of my clients, needs a lot more carbs during football season than a 52 plus 140-pound accountant, me, during tax season. To think there is some fixed amount that anyone would need, of any kind of food, is a mistake. For diabetics, there is an extra wrinkle in the calculations, but it's also affected by the type of diabetes you're talking about. T1 and T2 are two totally different diseases, and while a lot of overlap exists in treatment techniques, the dietary limitations that are critical in T2S are less so in T1S, though T1S must still pay attention to carbs consumed and BG levels. The way to learn for yourself is with a BG, blood glucose, meter, testing with purpose on a regular basis. A non-Ds, non-diabetics, BG ranges from 90 to 120 mg/dl, 5.00 to 6.67 mmol/L, all day long, with 80% of the day spent below 100 mg/dl, 5.55 mmol/L. The low end of that range is the fasting upon waking, and pre-meal level. The high end is the post-meal peak. For most folks, the peak occurs about 1 hour after a meal, but may be anywhere from 45 to 90 minutes after, and also varies by the contents of the meal. By an hour after the peak, the non-Ds BG is back to the pre-meal level, or Ds of any type. Near normal BG levels are desirable to minimize the complications of the disease. But I'm going to assume you're asking about T2, because 90% of all Ds are T2. Test your BG before a meal, plus 1 and 2 hours after the same meal. Try doing this for every meal for 10 days, and record the details of the meals, types of foods, and total carb grams, as well as the readings. This will give you a roadmap of how your body responds to the foods in those meals, so vary them among your typical food choices. From there, adjust your carb consumption in order to lower your BG to near normal levels. Lowering carbs will lower BG. By eating carbs with fats and proteins, you will also slow the conversion of carbs to glucose, a quick and simple process in any event. If you're talking about T1, insulin dosing for mealtime carbs is necessary, and that is based on each T1's insulin sensitivity factor, which their doc should have helped them learn, and they must dose based on that. So a very different process from T2 carb adjustment. If a T1 want to reduce carbs, they must also reduce insulin. Of course, we can also increase insulin if we increase carbs, but that's a bad idea over the long term. It's important to stay at a healthy weight, and overeating by overdosing to cover it simply facilitates weight gain. Sorry for the long-winded response, but I hope you find some useful info in it. Answer by Subra Velu. It depends on how much rice raises your blood sugar. For me, it is 1,214 grams a day. However, if I can eat more than 3,050 grams equivalent rice from mutton biryani but not increase blood sugar. Unless you test your blood sugar with different varieties of rice, you won't know. Answer by my dietist. Rice is rich in carbohydrates and can have a high GI score. If you have diabetes, you may think that you need to skip it at the dinner, but this isn't always the case. You can still eat rice if you have diabetes. You should avoid eating it in large portions or too frequently, though. Many types of rice exist, and some types are healthier than others.